We're now live here with Keith moderating a conversation for us on technology and software. I couldn't think of a better person as the president of FranConnect to be able to be here for us and do this for us. A few housekeeping items before we start. Once again, on the top right here on your panel, you will notice there's a feed. That's a chat feed. You can go ahead and chat with anyone in this session during this session and during the entire show. The Q&A area is where you want to be if you've got a question for any of our panelists or moderators. So go ahead and load any questions you'd like into there. For the first 30 minutes, Keith will go ahead and moderate the conversation, after which we'll take those questions and spend 15 minutes on those. And then in between this session and the vendor best practices session, we're going to go ahead and have you go to the lounge. So on the left-hand side of your screen, you'll notice there's a lounge button. Each of these panelists and speakers will go there and sit at a table and answer any questions you may have missed during this session, okay? I want to go ahead and just also remind you that the next two sessions can be pretty amazing. As a home service brand, our vendors are really important to us, especially on the product side. I've got a few franchisors who'll be here speaking about how they partner with their vendors and how in some cases they even help their vendors help them sell franchises and rebate programs with those vendors. So I think that'll be really valuable. Also, as a home service franchisor, there are a lot of laws that are changing that are important in terms of revenue recognition as well as employee issues. And so we've got Lane Fisher, who will be hosting that session at 3 p.m. Central. Go ahead, make sure yourselves can be around for that at 2 and 3 o'clock after this. And so with that, I'll pass the time on to Keith. Thank you for being here, guys, and have a great time.
Thank you, Scott, and thanks to ProNexis for putting on the conference here. Thrilled to join you today. I am Keith Gerson, the moderator for today's session and president of franchise operations for FranConnect. I've got a phenomenal panel here, but rather than me do a terrible job of reading their credentials, let's take just a couple of minutes here for them to introduce themselves. So starting with Doug, who are you, what do you do, and why should the audience care?
Good question. So Doug McGregor, I'm the managing director of Better Software. Better Software is a franchise management operations software, and we handle everything related that FranConnect might not do. So we're on the opposite side, where our focus is on the operations side. So we're not here to help bring in new franchises. We're here to help you once you get them.
Thank you. And Wade, would you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks everybody. Thanks Scott. Thanks ProNexis for putting this on. Wade Millward. I've been in software development for the past about 11 years. My background is in insurance, so I've been also on the insurance side, commercial insurance specifically. And I have a company that I started called Rikor. We do automated insurance compliance specifically for the franchise industry, and we have a digital brokerage, an embeddable digital brokerage within the franchise industry, which is a mouthful and sometimes challenging to explain. But I'm happy to be here and excited to talk about technology.
Good to have you here, Wade. Thank you. And John.
Hey, so I'm John Keene. I'm with ServiceMinder.io. We're a platform for managing franchised home services. So we feel like we're in our element here. We basically serve to the franchisors to help all the franchisees, basically automate, optimize, and manage and run their locations, as well as provide tools and KPIs at the brand level. So happy to be here.
Thank you so much. And last and certainly not least, Alvin.
Yeah, I've been in the software field for about 25 years in various roles. Right now, my latest project has been working on LeadLink, which is a ProNexis product that helps companies manage and deal with their incoming leads. So done a lot of things in the contracting space in terms of software for contractors, in addition to what I'm currently working on.
Well, thank you so much. And for our audience, I guess what this is unofficially the panel of the nerds. These are technology experts, and that's where we're going to go ahead and keep our line of questioning. Contrary points of view are welcome. I don't mind a little bit of controversy, and I'll be disappointed if we don't have a lively audience, a lively discussion. And that includes you, our audience. Please use the Q&A feature. Any questions that you have, we will pick up in the last 10 minutes or so of this conversation. With that said, You know, in my years of franchising, I've been both guilty on both counts. I have been with companies that have built their own technology, and with companies that have acquired technology, and others that yet subscribe to technology. So let's talk about the pros and cons, if you will, of building technology of your own, proprietary system, et cetera, versus going ahead and licensing a system from someone else who specializes in that technology. Why don't we start with you, Doug? What do you have to say about the pros and cons of build versus buy?
There's some, I think part of it is dependent upon the industry you're in. There are some industries that are really, really unique, have unique requirements. And, in those industries, it may very well make sense to build your own. But, I would guess that, those industries are few and far between. The majority of the platforms out there do a really good job of reaching across multiple types of operations and allow people to service different brands, different types of services. And the benefit of building or probably buying versus building, the software industry is forever evolving. I'll say that in the last 9 months, 10 months or so, we've probably rewritten about 40% of our code inside of our software. And, that's trying to keep us current. Forget about trying to get ahead and try to one up anybody. It's just an ongoing battle to stay ahead of the curve. And, for people doing that on their own, it can be a very expensive undertaking.
Thank you. Wade, do you have a vantage point on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So buying versus building yourself. I think I actually went through this process, again, coming from a different industry, but it's the exact same concept. We were kind of crazy enough to actually build it from the ground up. And Doug was hitting it on the head right there, where they have to constantly put investment, resources, time, energy into rebuilding the actual platform. So what you're building now may not be relevant in 5 to 6 to 7 years. You also have to consider the type of language that you use in the software that you're developing, right? All of these things are typically foreign to somebody just building a franchise concept, right? You have to also ask yourself, is it my core competency? Is this what I should be focusing on? Because it is a lot of time and attention and money. And then you start going down this path of developing software, and you quickly realize that you're in way over your head. You're talking with engineers who typically speak a different language. Then you have to employ more and more people, and you have to continue to expand that. And so what you may thought was something that could provide, a quick solution turns out to be a very long and arduous process. So something else to consider too with software development is that the amount of time it takes to develop it is extensive. And so if you don't have employing full-time people and dedicating their entire time on it, then you really got to ask yourself again that question: is it worth it? Is it worth the time? Is it worth the money that we're putting into this? And is it better just to go and find a pre-built solution that could just fit our needs?
Is it safe to say, though, that you're also courting some serious exposure on behalf of a system if, in fact, there are breaches that occur? There are so many different rules and regulations. There's SOC 1, SOC 2 compliance, et cetera. What do you have to say about the security component? And I'll take any of our I know we have somebody here who manages risk, for example, but what are the other risks? Is it real or imagined?
I think it's very real. You have to watch out. I mean, you basically have to be in security full time. It has to be built in from the ground up as you build and maintain your system. People are always scanning and looking for ways to get into your systems. And so if you don't have people that are on staff ready to deal and mitigate with those, you're setting yourself up for exposure, lawsuits, liability from a standpoint of, exposing customer data, payment data, customer history. that's probably your most valuable asset is, your list of customers and what you've done for them and what you've got planned to do for them. And you want to keep that locked down as much as possible. And that's a full-time effort for sure. Something's always changing, right? In terms of what you need to do to get in touch. It's not just a matter of keeping your PC up to date, right? You're having to keep your entire external footprint up to date.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great point. And it also suggests, though, that there is a point in time in which franchisors change. Let's say there's somebody here who's saying, you're making some great points. Now I really should go out and assess as to whether or not this could be better provided and minimize my risk, exposure, et cetera. Or oftentimes you've got franchisors that are just simply unimpressed with the systems they have. They're not getting the value, and they're looking at switching a system. So why don't we talk about that? Has anybody here on this call dealt with inheriting or moving, a customer who's moving on or off their platforms, and what goes into that from the other standpoint of some of the challenges? What's a realistic time frame? Why don't I go to Alvin?
So I think I've dealt with that a lot. I think it's one of the challenges that you have whenever you switch software platforms is when you're going from no software to software or existing software to other software, homegrown software to other software is the whole purpose of software is to improve or even eliminate processes, to create some efficiencies. And often what I've seen in companies is they don't take full advantage of that improvement. They want the value of the software without taking the time to analyze their own internal processes and what has to happen, what has to change as they move to a new platform. I worked for one company that had internally developed, a massive piece of software that they were using for years. And like a lot of homegrown software, it eventually became obsolete, and they had some regulatory issues, and so they were forced to move to another software platform. But they literally spent tens of millions of dollars trying to take that new software platform and make it work like their old outdated software platform, because that's what they were familiar with. So I think one of the key aspects whenever you're changing software platforms is to use that as an opportunity to improve and grow your processes in alignment with what that software provides.
Have any of our panelists experienced, though, somebody who basically changed systems, imagining that the grass was greener on the other side, only to find out that the problem was an internal problem, and they continue to carry those types of issues with them? So, stated differently, I've read statistics that show that in excess of even 60% of software deployments fail. So what are some of the reasons behind software failure when it really boils down to something beyond the actual technology? It's really more about engagement and adoption. Let me go to you on that front, Doug. Have you experienced that, and what's your vantage point?
Yeah, absolutely. And the key thing is, we go through what we call a dating process when someone wants to change and either move from one software to us, or if they're a new franchise starting up. One thing that we don't like is surprises, and so we will spend a lot of time in what we call the dating mode before we ever get engaged, and we will. We just want to make sure that we really understand your operations, know your business from A to Z. In many cases, we'll fly out and spend some time in the field with a franchisee and really get to understand how the franchisee operates in the field. Franchisor will tell us one thing, but we get out in the field and spend some time with one or two franchisees. We often get a different picture. It may not be dramatically different, but there's the little things that pop up that we say, oh, that's interesting. We weren't aware of that. So I guess where I'm going with all this is, make sure that everyone does their homework before they consider changing. And the other thing I'll touch on is, if you're looking to move across platforms, the biggest challenge, more often than not, is moving your data. That can be such a massive undertaking, and be sure that you enter into that discussion. You know what's going on before you think about moving, and there's gonna be a cost associated with it. So think about if I'm going to move, which data do I absolutely have to move, and make sure that everyone is aware that what the potential shortcomings and costs are associated with that.
I have personally seen where a CXO falls in love with technology. Their eyes are bigger than their stomach, but they have the decision-making power, and they make a decision on behalf of the organization, only then to now have people that are involved who have no idea behind the why. Why was this move necessary, et cetera. So I want to ask Wade, from your perspective, and then I'll open this up to all of our panelists, but who should actually be involved in the evaluation process and the decision prior to actually making a change in the use of technology?
That's a loaded question. So maybe we can get some arguments with this one going. But honestly, I believe that the people that are dealing with the software should all have a voice in the decision of what software to choose. And that goes all the way down to just the customer service level, right? These are the people that are dealing with often the software day in and day out. And then what happens, though, typically is you have these C-level people that are outside of the software for some reason making all the decisions, yet they don't have their ear to the ground about what exactly is happening. So I believe a lot of these different stakeholders should be involved in this process, deciding. Maybe you should have some type of brainstorming session, talk about all the specific pain points, and then going back to what Doug was talking about, or I think Alvin too, is like, is it an operational issue? We can't always assume the software is the problem. You have to start asking questions and pointing back at yourself and saying, is it something internally that we have to fix, and not just blame the software provider? The other thing too that I'll mention is the 80-20 principle here with software, deciding what software to use. 80% of people only use 20% of the software. There's so many features in these software-rich platforms that we tend to forget. There's a lot of stuff in there that can actually provide a solution to your existing problem. So again, don't just look out. If you guys have a current problem, don't just immediately pick up the phone and call the next software provider. Pick up the phone and talk to your current software provider. Ask them the questions, understand its capabilities before you make any type of rash decision that you may regret very, very quickly. Hopefully that answers something.
Yeah. Well, it certainly does. One constituency that I didn't hear you say, though, is whether or not franchisees actually get involved in the process. Is that tail wagging the dog? Or in fact, should they? And should it be somebody who has a background in technology? Perhaps there is a franchise advisory council committee or subcommittee that is involved here. Let me go over to you, John, and ask.
Yeah, I think like in all things in franchising, there's a balancing act, right? And so the franchisees want to make sure that they can run their business efficiently, not spend too much time on training costs and manpower costs. And then the brand wants things like data aggregation and things that they can make high-level decisions. And so you have to kind of display the benefits of both sides to both groups so they can see their reason, right? So maybe one of the reasons why the franchisors want, these rolled up aggregated stats is so they can share them with the franchisees so they can see where they fit and where they rank so they can improve their service delivery, having that blended data available. It's important to match out, things that they may need to do that they don't want to do, but be able to see the benefits of what is in it for them if they do those things that may seem unnormal for them to do on a daily basis.
Yeah. Do you think that there are times, though, that franchisors jump the gun? That maybe the issue was never about the technology. It was about the absence of engagement and adoption. And if you believe so, do you have any best practices, panelists, in terms of where and how to get more buy-in, where and how to drive the adoption? Because I'll tell you, franchisors, they don't like stoking the checks for technology solutions that people aren't using. And as you said, Wade, 80% of the technology is really not being used in many systems. It's just 20%. So panelists, Doug, is there a best practice rubric that you use, for example, for where and how to drive adoption? What does that consist of?
A really thought out training manual is critically important. And I'll talk to an experience that we had with Better. We had a client, I won't say who it was, but 2 years ago, there was a high level of frustration, and and our software at that point wasn't I would call it wasn't the most user friendly, and so there was a high level of user frustration. So we put a lot of effort at that point into getting a really good manual in place, really spending the time to educate the users on as Wade mentioned, that 20% of the software they were actually using, make sure they were really, really efficient on that 20% of the software. And we went from this franchise 2 years ago where they were frustrated and ready to potentially move on, look for something else, to today they are our biggest advocates. I look at our NPS scores that are related to that particular franchise, and we're sitting at like 80, 82 or 84 out of that particular franchise. We'll never get 100% of them that are going to be happy, but I guess where I'm going with that is make sure that you really take the time to educate the users on how to really use the software and listen to their concerns, and make sure that you address what those concerns are. And I also want to touch base. It's interesting because the platforms are very complex. Our most recent update, we've really focused on where they're going to spend 80% of their time. We try to make it. We want to make it as efficient as possible. And the few people we've shown it to have been really positive about it. But where I was going with that is, as a software or choosing a software vendor, make sure that you also take that time to recognize where are people going to spend the majority of the time, and make sure that part of the system is really they're going to have a positive experience with it.
I think so many of us have heard and believe that before one starts with any change, it really revolves around being able to answer to the why. Why is this change necessitated? And so we think in terms of the franchisor, he or she who makes the, has the goal, makes the rules of really ultimately having this decision. But isn't the greatest likelihood of engagement is when somebody understands as a franchisee what's in it for them? And how would you recommend a franchisor goes about conveying the why behind software implementation or technology implementation? Alvin, would you like to take that one?
Sure. I think in general, there's two angles that people approach a problem. One is from a tactical perspective, and one is from a strategic perspective. And the franchisors are often taking things from a strategic perspective, where they need to be 2 years down the road. And the franchisees can sometimes are tactical. What do I need to do this week? And so there's this gap that develops between the strategic and the tactical. And I think it's very important to have people that can bridge that gap and can understand both the strategic and both the tactical in your organization. And I think it's one of the hardest kind of positions to have in an organization, is someone that can bridge the gap between what the long-term vision is and what the immediate needs are. And if you focus on either one of those in terms of your sales pitch, you can fail if you focus on the development too much in one direction or the other. If you're just focusing on what people need next week, 2 years down the road, the software is going to be obsolete. And likewise, if you just focus on what's happening 2 years from now, it may not make it to 2 years because the work that needs to happen next week won't happen.
Yeah, thank you so much. And let me go to the balance of the panelists and ask each of you to just come up with sharing what you believe to be one of the best practices in, again, driving adoption, driving engagement, driving utilization of the product. So, Wade, how would you answer?
Yeah, I'm going to backtrack just a titch real quick and talk about something for a second. But people love to reinvent the wheel, right? I saw it so many times where you have this entire technology platform and you see one of your people over there or a franchisee or something, they got their Excel spreadsheet out and they're manually inputting information into this Excel spreadsheet. When you go over to their desk and you talk to them, like, this is what the software is for, right? And so this is why the adoption is so critical. And also, it also keeps consistency throughout the entire organization, right? You have to get people on board. So the question becomes too, I don't know if I'm going to answer your question, but the question with software becomes, what is its critical role and how does it help these different franchisees or franchisors? Does it improve efficiencies? Is it going to be reducing the amount of time that it takes to actually, process certain things? And ultimately, software, I believe, exists to allow humans to do what we do best, which is empathize with other people. So in the past, we did so much paper pushing and processing and manual stuff that we couldn't actually focus on the customer or the franchisee, right? We're always doing this back office work when we should be out there building relationships. And so maybe to drive adoption through, it's like, look, guys, in order for you guys to have a better business, a better brand, to build better relationships, use the damn software, right? Just use it. And then get the material out there that they need. And you also want to partner up with a software provider that has an intuitive interface. There's a lot of clunky stuff out there. And if it's not intuitive, if it's not something that we can just get in there and learn within 24 hours or something for, the bulk of the platform, we need to have those conversations.
Amen. Let's go to, can I get a, John, best practice for driving engagement and adoption?
I think the best part is to show the benefits of why they should do what you want them to do, right? So, for example, if you have the ability to launch brand level email campaigns or other brand level marketing activities, the brand's got to get that data from somewhere. So if you as the franchisee aren't putting your data in the system, you're not going to be able to participate in those events. And those are things that you're paying for, right? The franchisees are paying national ad funds and royalties to execute some of those programs. And if you're not using the tool, like Wade said, use the tool and keep the data up to date, then you're not going to be able to get maximum benefit out of those. It's really as simple as that. And so I think the process involves, educating the franchisees, not so much as to what to do, but also the why, because, they're independent business owners and they're going to go for buy-in as well. So if they understand the benefit of doing those things, then they're going to be much more inclined to do that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You mentioned,
please.
I was just going to say something to add on to that is, as far as the data is concerned, I'm sure we're not the only platform, but we can lock it so that if you're entering a new client, you're not allowed to step away from that customer until you have entered all the data that is required. Things like where did that the lead come from? Where did this customer come from? I think that is again, working with the franchisor to understand what's important. It will ensure that you're collecting the right data and being able to utilize that data properly.
Sure. Now, we heard just a minute ago about some of the funds that franchisors are using to fund the programs on behalf of their franchisees, though oftentimes those are franchisee funds that are coming in. How about technology fees? Okay, how prevalent are you finding tech fees? And can you share what you're hearing in terms of where and how much, and the methodologies that are being used to fund the acquisition of technology through tech fees? Okay, let's go to you, Alvin.
So I think in general, the trend is to a pay-as-you-go kind of a model. Pay per achievement or pay per thing. And I can't speak specifically as to, how it works across multiple franchises, but in the software industry in general, there used to be this thing of pay up front, pay massive fees to buy and adopt a software. And, in the past decade or so, that's really transitioned to, more of a subscription kind of a model where you're paying for exactly what you get, which is, I think, a lot easier to adopt than, the old model, which was, pay everything up front.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Doug. Are you seeing, in terms of technology fees, are your customers paying for technology through an established tech fee fund? And if so, how are those set up?
Almost across the board now. 4 or 5 years ago, I don't think it was quite as prevalent, but today it is. I don't think we've got a franchise in our system that doesn't have a tech fee in it. Even some of the early adopters, they are putting tech fees in up front. So, question is, how much money they do put in. But it's interesting. A couple of the really old franchises that we have in the system, they're the ones that were most challenged on tech fees, because they might have put a tech fee in there that they've never updated in 15 years, and 15 years ago it was $65 for their tech fee. Well, that probably isn't going to get you a whole lot today. But generally, yes, new franchises, medium length franchises, they all have a tech fee built into it. And tech fee, I was going to say, tech fee is a pretty broad fee. So it's not just one piece of software that the tech fee is supposed to cover. It can cover quite a broad range of services.
Such as,
an email service as well. You might have another email service that is on top of one that is built into your franchise operation system. You might have
call center. Yeah, you might.
Call center. Thank you.
Have a brand level call center. You need to.
I would think, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we see a variety of ways that brands fund these types of activities. Sometimes it's all technology fee, and sometimes that's a blended fee that covers multiple things, right? The software and other services that are provided by the brand. Sometimes it's a case where the franchisor pays a portion of it, the franchisees pay a portion of it, so they have some visibility into what they're paying for the software. Maybe the brands take a rebate on that. Some brands may require the use of the software, other brands may not. That can also affect adoption down the road in terms of whether everybody has to use it or not. So we try to be fans of, if people want to give us money, we try to make it easy for them to give it to us, no matter how it goes.
I put together a webinar which was around an analysis of over 2,800 FDDs, and it was provocative in the sense as, are your fee structures limiting your business and limiting your ability to scale? So we found that, and this was 2019, 63% of franchisors are now offering technology fees. And of those, it's a flat dollar opposed to a percentage of revenues. Mm-hmm. And of those, the average was $225 per month. And yet I did an attitude and perception survey, and the question was, is that enough? And not one franchisor thought that that was enough money for them to effectively compete in a world in which technology is creating greater efficiencies. And where would so many industries be today if it were not for the fact that they were prepared prior to the pandemic to be able to pivot their businesses and do so much online? Now, home services, I believe, was ahead of the curve on that front. Thankfully, call centers in place, technologies now that in some ways augment that. Just so many different ways of, online bookings and whatnot. So I think that it's important for our viewers here today to take a serious look at their technology fees, knowing that they can be changed on an annual basis. You can write this into your operations manual. I'm not an attorney. Lane Fisher, I understand, is at this event. I would imagine that you would have to disclose properly on this point that if you don't have it written into your FDD, that you have language that says the operations manual will convey what those amounts are year to year. Let's go on to something that, as we are time for the FAQs now, I would like to start with one that came from Joe, the president of Home Clean Heroes. Thank you for asking a terrific question here. For any or all, what do you consider the most innovative and recent developments of your platform that you feel is game-changing for franchisors?
That's a great question. I think for us, one of the bigger game changers is something we actually started on quite a while ago, and the uptick was kind of slow, but basically integrating texting so that you can, as the consumer kind of transitions how they want to talk to people, from phone calls to maybe web chats, now to it's like just text me already. So we've had that ability in our software for a while, and we've seen adoption for that go up pretty dramatically over the last couple of years.
Now, though I'm a moderator, I said at the beginning of this presentation that I like a little bit about controversy and lively discussion. So I will see your texting and I will raise you one.
All right.
Because something right now that we're doing is we're putting artificial intelligence behind that with Generation 4 conversational bots, nurturing capabilities that are around that, et cetera. And seeing significant increases in terms of both meet to appointment booking and reductions in the loss, or broken appointments. So big changes there. So let's go to the other panelists. What else are you considering the most innovative and recent developments of your platform that's game changing?
I'll jump in there real quick if that's okay, Doug. Appreciate that. I thought Doug was about to jump in. Game changing. So often we're typically focused on operational efficiency, improving the bottom line, generating revenue. I come from a risk management and insurance standpoint. So our platform is a game changer for franchisors, where most insurance compliance companies require that you manually send over your franchisee list so they can manually process, to verify if they have insurance or not, which mitigates your risk. What we've been doing what we're able to do is integrate directly with your franchise management system, so you don't have to lift a finger. We automatically identify your franchisees, so we can actually collect and verify their insurance status. And the goal for us in the future is to be able to provide real-time insurance verification data, so that way you guys can avoid multi-million-dollar lawsuits, which is prevalent in the franchising industry. The biggest challenge or a huge thing that franchisors sometimes are not aware of, is that you are liable for all of the operations of your franchisees, and you're relying on a piece of paper, which is a false sense of security, to verify that these franchisees have insurance. And so we're coming in saying, why are we doing this? Why are we still relying on paper when you should have data? And so that's the thing that we're working on, which we're really excited about.
Excellent. Doug, you have any show and tell?
Well, I think probably our biggest game changer is our interface. We're just going to be releasing at the end of this month a major update to our interface, which will make I talked earlier about that 80% of the time that you're in the software. We've made that 80% of the time that you're in the software like so much easier. We've probably reduced, I don't know, at least 50% of the clicks to get anything done, and that is massive. And it's interesting. Software, we're always trying to leap ahead of our competitor out there. And if you move to change systems because someone's got a neat new feature, well, maybe you should talk to your existing supplier, because they might be 2 months, 3 months, maybe 6 months behind. So by the time you actually do the conversion, the other guy's probably got that piece of software. So we're all investing heavily in the technology, and we're all moving forward. We're all going to get better. really talk to your existing supplier and make sure that they have it. But for us, the big thing is, we've been focusing on that basic interface. How do I enter an order? How do I enter a customer? How do I enter an estimate? How do I convert an estimate to an order and invoice it and email out to the customer? You got to make sure that that process is streamlined and simple, and that's where we put majority of our effort.
Thank you. And Alvin, did you have anything to add?
I'd just like to kind of echo some things that were said previously. I think we're seeing a growing trend towards direct scheduling by consumers of appointments as opposed to the old model, which was, more telephone based, or, try and the call tag back and forth to try and get in touch with the customer. But I think there's a challenge there in that the market is going to segment, where you're going to have some people that want to do everything without ever talking to someone, text, online, and then you're going to have some people that kind of fight against that. And so if you don't offer, if you go completely that direction and don't offer a good, I can talk to a human instead of a computer, I think you end up losing people.
Yes, yeah, well, completely agree. Technology is not, or should not in this particular case, be a replacement for people, but to augment, create greater efficiencies. When we're talking about this, let's face the fact that unless you're going to hire somebody that does not sleep at night, you are losing opportunities when, leads and, whether appointments on the consumer side or franchise development come in at 10 o'clock p.m. on a Friday night, come in on an extended holiday weekend, et cetera. We all know time kills deals. So.
Yeah, one of the things I also wanted to add, Keith, touching back on when you talked about AI, I just wanted to touch on data because I think data is critically important, and one of the things that I think is really underutilized is that whole the data that is trapped inside, and I'm going to say the word trapped because in many cases it is trapped inside the platform and is not being utilized properly. And one of the things that we've got in place is a separate data warehouse, so people are allowed to go in and pull reports and get information out of the data warehouse. And a data warehouse is there. It's designed for data storage. It's not designed for operational side of it. So just being able to use data, I think, is just so important for franchises.
Thank you. Well, with 2 minutes remaining, what I'd like to do, and guys, this is going to have to be a Reader's Digest response from you, is what is, if you will, the one key point, the one key takeaway you want to leave with our viewers today when it comes to technology in the home services category. So let's go down the horn. Doug, you first.
Well, I'll go back and say, make sure there's no surprises. So really investigate, know what it is that you're getting into. Make sure that, you thoroughly investigate the company that you're going to move to. Make sure that they thoroughly investigate you so that there are no surprises. And, just spend that time to understand one another before you make any changes.
Thank you. Wade, what's your key takeaway for the audience?
Yeah, I think first ask the questions, do we actually need new technology, or is it something internally that we need to fix first? If so, what is it? I'd go down, identify, ask why 5 times, right? Always identify the root cause. And then truly, if it is new technology that you do need, I would first still, I guess after that, identify the problem, is then go talk with your current technology provider, ask them if they can offer any other additional solutions. Only until you've actually done those 2 things do you then go and seek another technology provider.
Great point. John.
Yeah, I think that this talk kind of highlights all the key things that are cool about software, right? It's always changing, technology is always moving, consumer behaviors are moving. It's important to stay focused with a vendor that is focused on moving forward with you, right? So they're continually trying to improve and make the product better. So find somebody that works with you on those points.
Excellent. And last but not least, Alvin.
Yeah, I think software should be chosen based on how you want to evolve your company and how you want to grow your company instead of how you want to fix the problems that are, instead of fighting fires by choosing software, you need to get a little bit of a strategic view on the software and choose it accordingly.
Thanks. And mine would be basically simplify, simplify, simplify. You're asking in many cases your franchisees to master 6, 7, 8, 10 franchise technologies. Okay, find a platform, put it all in one place. Don't think you have to rip and replace and go in favor of just one platform provider. Just find whoever you're using, make sure they've got an API, make sure that they got an openness and a willingness to be able to integrate with one place to go for the truth. That's it. I want to thank our panelists, Doug McGregor, Wade Millward, John Keene, Alvin Black, and of course, Scott Abbott and the fine team over at ProNexis. It's been a pleasure.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Keith. Well done. Thanks, gentlemen, for your insights and for answering some of the questions we had. So at this point, I'll go ahead and invite you all to make your way to the lounge where you can go one-on-one with any of our speakers or panelists. And we'll take about a 15-minute break here. And then we'll be hearing from Andy Bells, the moderator, on vendor best practices in the home services category. There's a lot of important vendor relationships we need to grow our businesses and run them. And part of that will be to talk about how to leverage our vendors around rebate programs and in supporting our franchisees in a way that makes sense. And so look forward to seeing you all in a few minutes.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.